Hey everyone, this is Andrew. Welcome to Atomo. Today is April 19th. If you haven't noticed, 420 is tomorrow, and Elon's going to launch his big rocket on 420. Oh, funny Elon. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. Um, I was doing some research, and one of the things that I am looking to stick my toe in is the ARC forum. Now, the reason for the ARC forum, yes, I do follow Jordan Peterson. I do follow some of the other thought leaders like the intellectual dark web people. Yeah, I follow that stuff. It's a good counterpoint against all the narratives that are going on. I think especially listening to some of Brett Weinstein stuff, uh, Jordan Peterson himself, and the likes of the others. I don't want to get too much into that. Um, so when they brought up the arc, now I was looking to do a bit more work in the World Economic Forum. My understanding back at that time was that was an open and invitational group for everybody to come and to put in their ideas and to see if we can make the world a better place. I thought, well, if they're doing this diversity, inclusiveness, and equity, and all this other stuff, it's probably a good open forum where you can just come in, bring your thoughts, or maybe even if you bring enough, thought leadership that you could potentially get like a committee position or something where you can help write some of the policy and contribute articles into the thought leadership because I got some stuff to add. Boy, does naivete hit hard when you're dealing with the people who want to rule the world. No, it's their way. So paywalls upon paywalls upon paywalls. And in order to get the more cherished positions, you really have to put a lot of money into the thing. So the concept that I thought was the World Economic Forum wasn't that so shockingly. So that's where I became very skeptical of it because how can you come up with things like inclusivity and all that stuff and then there's a big paywall that gets slammed down in front of you. Okay, so the hypocrisy, yeah, kind of jumped up there. So what I want to share here is I thought I'd take a look at the ARC Forum Organizing Committee and just do kind of a brush through. I've seen other YouTube videos where they went like really deep in like the dark secrets of these people and how these are just another type of evil lizard people, and this is just going to be World Economic Forum 2.0. Hmm, yeah, okay, I can see the clickbaitishness of that. So what we're looking at here is, all right, so an investment banker looking to support children's charity for African children. Pretty awesome. Here's a chairman of GB News. I watched some GB News, alternative news. Great to have other viewpoints out here. Here's one from Sky News Australia. I like how they pick on the Brandon administration. So, hey, that has my vote. See, I don't need to think very deep on this. God, sometimes I just want to underthink stuff. Can we underthink stuff sometimes? Here, we got an assistant minister for defense. Okay, well, potentially, do we have a neocon sitting here? Maybe we do. You throw some stuff in the comments or, link up some other videos where you talk about these folk. Here we have courses on leadership and happiness. Okay, that sounds cool. I'd love to learn a bit more about Brooks' works and see how it tees up with other leadership work that I study, because that's part of what I do is leadership development. That's kind of my thing. Here we have humanistic studies. Hopefully, the decent humanistic studies, not the not the kind of neo-Marxist stuff. Bjorn Lomborg, a lot of work there with, he's got a lot of climate books. Watched him on Jordan Peterson. Here we got saying here he's got some sort of fund manager going on. I don't know much about these funds, so I can't research everything. I only got a little bit of time here to do these videos. Here, promotion of procreativity, the pronatalism. See, even I'm getting kind of like I should know a bit more about that. No, I'd have to do a little bit of Googling around. Dan, okay, there's eye patch. Dan, so like that's where I get one of my first worries is I think there's quite a neocon rhino. See, I'll let you know my biases here, so we're open about this. But it's part of if you really want to have a diverse group of people, you sometimes have to have the people that maybe you vehemently disagree with. Here we have a psychoanalyst. Over here, member of Austrian People's Party. No, and I want to do some research on the Austrian People's Party and see kind of what their platform is and were they COVID lockdown for or COVID lockdown against, just to see what their stance is. Baroness here, more gender balance boards. So you say, oh no, we got a diversity person here. Well, if you really want to have, you need to have a mixture of these folk on the board in order to kind of counterbalance the ideas. So if she's going to campaign for more gender balance boards, great. Bring your best arguments for that and let's put it into the mix. And instead of like the other forums that basically brute force this on you, let's make it a conversation, see if we can come up with something better than just thou shall do this and put certain people onto your boards. We just want to make sure that we have the best people on the board that know what they're doing. And if that's an all-male board or an all-female board, well, be it as it may. I just want to have the best board and advisors. Professor of religion. So I believe I saw James Orr in some of the Exodus series, and I think the Exodus series will be coming out at some point in time. I think they're slated to come out. If not, they're already on YouTube, but I watch them somewhere else. It's pretty provocative, even for someone like me who's not heavily into religious stuff. Deputy Prime Minister from Australia. So again, that would require some investigation to see, okay, what was his stances while he was in office. And now second longest serving Australian Prime Minister. So again, what were some of the things that John Howard brought to Australia and why would you want to debate him within this forum? Jonathan Pageau, pretty good with his symbolic work. Enjoyed his talks on Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson doesn't need any introduction himself. Love him or hate him, if you really listen deeply into what he talks about, he has some pretty remarkable arguments. I've even seen people in my circles who have been staunch liberals who finally okay, because of recommendations, like just listen a little bit, here's some bite-sized pieces and see if it resonates with you. And next thing you know, they're like, oh, really? I didn't understand this. I didn't know this. Especially those with young children who are struggling with, how to raise a good, honest young person in the world. A lot of, and are you doing a good or bad job at it? A lot of good thoughts that Jordan brings into the forefront. Here we have President of Them Before Us, Children's Right and Matters of Marriage and Family. Okay, sounds very reasonable, especially when the United Nations just put up a a document that kind of, yeah, I might need to save that for another video. Leslie Lewis, she's a really, really remarkable person to listen to, completely based. Glad to have her in Canada and in the Conservative Party. Great asset there. Here we got private wealth manager. So you just want to check in and see private wealth. Is he part of the New York Bang Gang? Bang, bang, gang, bang, gang, bang. Oh, it's getting late. I can't talk. Bank Gang, New York banks. Louise Perry, nonpartisan feminist think tank. A case against the sexual revolution. I think Jordan might have had her on one of the podcasts. So it's just, yeah, you know, I grew up with hearing a lot about the sexual revolution and come from a broken family from that because of, well, there's a certain point where it just becomes, don't need to get into it, but it's like, wow, I can do all this stuff and don't need to care about the structures of family life. Yeah. Okay. So there's, you know, there's pros and cons to this and how we want our upbringing. African dignity and prosperity, retail brands, African traditions. Yeah. Okay. So there's some, you know, extra thought, especially with some traditions that we might be able to exact some different ways of thinking uh, in what we do. Louisiana Armed Services Judiciary Committees. Okay, yeah. Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. Okay, so that sure serves to take a look and see. And I don't think he means weaponization as to take people out. I mean, like using it against your political opponents. Mike Lee. I was wondering if there's any Democrats that might sit on this because I'm getting a sense that maybe we got the neocons, but what about the liberal side, especially from the United States? And that might be sacred. I think they're all the Democrats are World Economic Forum aligned with his, and is the arc going to be Rhino aligned? Well, that's something that I'm looking out for, and why I'm kind of going through this. I don't want to jump to any conclusions. We have to let this play out a bit. Age appropriate sex education and gender ideology in schools. Okay, so that's respectable, especially because, you know, did Mao during the Maoist revolutions realizing I can't mess with the children in the family structure because next thing you know, the whole thing comes apart and his little revolution would fall apart. I think they were thinking about it, but they realized that there's certain things you don't mess with. Building better, beautiful commission, office for the place, Nicholas Boys. Design of towns and cities. So, okay, we've got some counterpoint to the 15-minute cities that we can bring forward. Here we have international affairs. Okay. This gentleman, we have peace alliance in senior pastor of Freedom's Arc. Okay, so we got some more faith community, again, which is an element of this. I think one of the elements you might see, because of there's a lot of faith-based people here, is that it creates a value structure. If you take away any sort of faith-based practice, then what we find is the value structures don't get codified into anything. So when somebody with a new ideological bent comes into play, they can add the ideological component into that organization and then create your armies of activists around that rather than trying to take, like, I have this higher ideal, but since that ideal is not embodied in a particular person, then it's very difficult to usurp, because you can create these values that are granted by an authority that you don't have dominion over. And so that makes the arguments a bit more difficult rather than that there's like some sort of emperor or empress that's pushing people around in some manner. Here we got Paul Marshall, founding trustee of ARC. So there's, looks like they're not related between these two organizations. ARC schools, I don't know exactly what an ARC school is. It looks like it's something in England. So again, I can't research all of this. Baroness Stroud has a bunch of things there. I think I've seen somebody comment on her. Not everybody's going to have a squeaky clean past, especially if you've got a title like Baroness or Baron or Duke or something like that. In order to keep a certain level of power, you might have a set of people who don't quite appreciate what you have done, or you might have done wrongs in the past to get to where you are. Everybody has warts, everybody's broken in some way, and we are all fixer-uppers in one way or another. It's just, how do we put these pieces together to complement each other and to have robust debate, especially with this group of characters. Rebecca Heinrich, Keystone Defense Initiative, U.S. National Defense Policy, focus on strategic deterrence. Okay, sounds, my neocon label would come up, but I also have to understand I might be being unfair with that as well, without doing the proper research. But again, it's giving me a bit of a neocon bent to this. Neocon is another faction. It's not necessarily Davos related, but it can be. You have to think of, you never, at least in my experience, never get the group or the people or the organization that's absolutely perfectly aligned to what I think and believe and my biases. So I have to look at, well, who's working the most against what I want in the future and align with the people who are best suited to get what I want. So Davos is not going to provide me for what I want in the future and how I want to see the world. This group is a little more, in my opinion, cleaner than Davos. What would be better is if we're basically governmentally almost left alone, but then I don't want to become a kind of libertarian maxi and kind of be spiteful of everything. So, there's different, how much governmental constraint are we under? How much could we have of that before it doesn't become anything of value? Let's go on to Rick here. Cornell, infrastructure policy. Okay, good to see some infrastructure policy. Talking about building cities. We got family, we got faith-based stuff, we got some infrastructure policy. Okay, good. So, and you see there's even a little bit more diversity of what they're bringing to the table here. We got, again, okay, here comes with building a city. So Riva here, technology finance, AI focused venture. Well, there's a lot of AI stuff going around. So you see, yet another dimension or layer is added. Then here we have a chief scientist who chairs Net Zero Australia. So you just say Bjorn Lomborg on one side, and we have a Net Zero Australia project on the other side. Looking for some good contentious debate on that, and out of that debate, perhaps even the net zero policies get looked at a little differently, um, especially some of the ways that those things can get funded. Stephen, Blackwood, Ralston College, Savannah, Georgia. Oh, I wonder if the Ralston College is the new one that they're creating to be a little more non-woke. So again, that requires a little bit of investigation into. Oh, Tony Abbott. Oh, that gives me a little bit of a twitch when I hear that name. So, but you can't have everybody that you absolutely love in the group, because you get the group think and you don't get, again, people talk about diversity. What's the best way to get diversity? Get people with opinions that you disagree with within the group. Victor David Hansen, Military History Working Group, Professor Emeritus of Classics. Hopefully, before you change James Bond. Not that James Bond is a classic, but kind of the new news speak changing of the memory holding the old books that don't meet up with the woke mob mentality. Critic of social trends related to farm. Oh, good. Oh, you should go watch a little bit of the Grumpy Farmer on YouTube as well. I like what Mr. Dennison puts out. So a little plug for Mr. Dennison. Go watch his Grumpy Farmer, because you should bring Grumpy Farmer onto this. Vivek, putting his hat in for presidential race. And he says he's just there to provoke particular debates. So great that I listened to his stuff that he put forward, pretty based. I thought it was great. It's just those vandals that are in the government right now in the United States, in the executive branch, are need somebody to counterpoint that stuff and to talk, not in a neocon bent or not in a World Economic Forum bent. Warren Farrell, here's one that I really like. Putting someone like Warren onto the board can really counter a lot of the. He's just. I like the global boy crisis. Really enjoy that. Make men men, let boys be boys. So he's a great one to listen to, and he's been on Jordan's podcast as well. Winston Marshall, a musician, good, okay, great. So we got some of that being added. So we had someone from the classics. Now we got some musicians, and again, I'll stop there. I'm sure some people have potentially checkered pasts. That's one of the things as we go through our lives. We're not going to leave roses and daisies along behind us. We're probably going to wrong somebody in some way. And it's just, in some cases, just by having an opinion, you're going to wrong somebody. And by completely changing that opinion all the time, then who are you as a person? It's where the meme of the NPC comes into play. You're just going to say whatever you need to say in order to kind of move along in life, and you got no soul about you. Then, well, what specific flavor are you putting into the world? So yeah, some of those characters I would I'm in disagreement with, but the fact that they're there, we're going to put them together and let them flesh out those disagreements, I think is something that I would definitely like to see when get those recordings done of those disagreements and those debates, put them up and let us even comment on it, put it into the court of public opinion. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining me as we do a little bit more ARC stuff. We'll keep an eye on it as things move forward. So see you next time.